Give them some choices.
That's good because Becky and I did a VA earlier in the fall, and he's going to want to.
Beck, you ready to go?
Once he does.
Yes, I had to save the day.
All right, excellent, beautiful. Roberto, count us down. We're ready to go.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Beck.
Go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. Wrapping up the month of March 2022. It's been a wild month, a wild first quarter, but nonetheless, we have Brian McAllister on our podcast this morning. Brian, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm not yelling. I'm just talking loud, Brian. Brian works EXP in Trenton, works in Michelle Sayward's office down there in Trenton. And we're going to have a fun, informative, entertaining segment for us. Brian's going to bring 18 years plus as a guidance counselor and a high school teacher. And Brian, I don't know about you, but listen, I'm sure you had kids like me in your office all the time when you were a guidance counselor.
Always. I mean, it's, the highly successful ones. Always.
There you go. And along with me, we have on our panel today, Miss Becky Alley, top 1% of all mortgage originators in the United States. Good morning, Becky.
What is up, Facebook land and our podcast listeners? We got excited.
Love them all. Love them all. Lisa Lawson, the Google of the office, the credit queen, as we like to call her. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody.
And Mr. Harvey Freed, host with the most, 97.1 FM, Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, heard every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 on 97.1 FM. Good morning, Harvey.
Good morning, Harry.
Excellent. Brian McAllister, since you are going to guide us through this segment of our podcast, I got to know, listen, home prices continue to go up this year. I'm going to read some stats from around the country. But more importantly, around here in our area, there are so many buyers and so little inventory. What are you doing? What's going on in your world?
I mean, you're right. The prices are just, it keeps going up. I mean, last year in January, February, the median price was 190,000. This year was 209 in January, and it's 216 in February. So the prices are really skyrocketing. And I mean, last June and July, the prices were at 235. So you'd only imagine the median price is going to go up this summer as well. So what we're doing, we're having to be very aggressive with our offers, very aggressive, a lot of concessions, a lot of giving the sellers exactly what they want and talking to those agents and saying, hey, what do you want? And trying to give them exactly what they want.
Yeah, Brian, I'm going to tell you this. Around the country, just a poll of 10 different cities from Tampa, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Miami, anywhere gains up to 32%. Here in metropolitan Detroit, it's probably closer to the 20% range, but it's pretty simple, Brian. It's really simple. Everybody thought people were not going to buy houses. Well, supply and demand. There's very, very few houses that are really exciting on the market, and it's creating an overbidding situation that we've never seen. We thought it was crazy in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. Then right in the middle in 2021, we thought prices were not going to go up any further. Guess what? We were all wrong, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only prices going up, but like you said, it's the inventory is really far down, and that's what's driving things up. If you look, right now there's only a 1 month supply of houses on the market.
That's crazy.
And they're only only 1 month supply. Last year it was 1.2, and in June last year it got up to almost 2 months of a supply. But that's very low, historically low. Which again, the supply and demand, it's going to drive up the prices. But I looked at even days on the market right now. Last summer, the houses were only on the market for an average of 7 to 9 days. So we have to work really quick. I was just working with buyer right now, right before we came on, who wanted to see a house, and it's gone. It was on the market for 2 days.
Yeah.
So the expediency of what needs to happen and the aggressiveness is pretty.
It's unheard
moving
of.
fast.
Yeah.
It's unheard of. It's moving
Hey.
so fast.
Hey, Becky Alley, listen, Becky, there's no shortage of activity out there, Becky Alley. I mean, you're busy all the time, like we all are, right? But you're really busy. There's plenty of activity. What's going on? I mean, what's going on with the activity? What kind of activity is out there?
The FOMO activity is out there right now, right? All that fear of missing out, that is what's happening right now. All that preaching that we did 2 years ago saying, hey, these rates are going to go up, get out there now, do what you're going to do. And those people that got out of the market, what did they get into? Higher prices, higher interest rates, right? So now we're facing that same kind of situation again, where people are saying, oh, well, I'm going to get out. What are you going to get out and get back into? Higher prices, higher interest rates. So right now I feel like, unfortunately, because we don't like our consumers and buyers and borrowers do not learn their lessons. Here we are, they're heating and they're wishing that they would have bought houses a year ago, right? They wish they would have done that refinance because they found out, guess what? Capital Mortgage Funding on the Hardcore Mortgage podcast or radio show, we were not fibbing when we said the rates were not going down to zero. So now here we are in rates that are mid high fours for your, your top tier credit even. And people are having that regret. So now there is that fire underneath them to kind of get out there and get into this housing frenzy. And it's also exacerbating the situation of the lack of homes that were built over the last 10 years that are not here to supply what we have going on.
Yeah, Becky, the more, there's a saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
We as consumers are not going to stop consuming. It's amazing to me. Gas is up. So I heard a statistic this morning. Gas is around $4.19, $4.20 a gallon, something like that. Okay, that's up. Watch this. It's up from $2.79, right? $2.79 is too high. Okay, I mean it's crazy to me. Since when is $2.79 a bargain for a gallon of gas? Well, I'm going to tell you, when prices when they're at $4.19, we're not really bright. Gas is up. Cars are up.
I have to say this though. I have to say this real quick. So I was on the phone with my parents last night and they're just saying like, hey, how's things? You're always busy. Congratulations on your honor that, you just posted yesterday. And I was like, thank you. And we're talking about the rates and stuff. And my dad's in the background, who's a comedian. He was like, back in my day, rates were 12% and we paid it. And we liked it. He was like, and if the rates are in the sixes, he was like, it's better than what we had. He was like, I had a car loan that was 19%. He was like, and we paid it.
I love your dad so much because I'm that dude. I'm that guy now. I mean, Lisa Lawson, right? Lisa, interest rates here. I'm going to be Becky's father right now. Interest rates right now, Brian, Harvey, Becky, Lisa, interest rates right now are in the high fours, low fives.
Yep.
Okay. Panic. What are you kidding me? Panic. It's back in my day, I paid 12 and a half and I liked it. Right, Becky?
And we paid it.
And I paid it and I was happy to pay it. Back in the early 80s, it was 18%. In the late 80s, it was 12 and a half. We're talking about
spoiled.
4. Yeah. I mean, come on, help me, Lisa. I mean, am I
we've been
just old?
You know what I mean? So I think we thought that was the norm and it really wasn't. Programs were put in place to subsidize those rates, buy mortgage-backed securities. All those have expired. We've been warning you for years. This was going to happen. As the rates started creeping up, they stopped buying those, the government stopped buying the securities, and then it is what it is. We're really normalizing. It's not so much as an increase as it's normalizing. We were really spoiled the past few years where we had these incredibly low rates, and that was great for everybody. And congrats if you took advantage of it. But, don't have FOMO. Take advantage of whatever you can now, because they're not going to zero. You hear us say that all the time. They're not going to zero. They're going to continue to increase. Nobody has a crystal ball. I can't tell you if they're going to be 8 at the end of the year, or if they're going to be in the 5s, but they are going to increase. So do it now. Don't have, fear of missing out. Take advantage of what you can. And, that's our big advice.
Well, Brian, and that's great advice, Brian. I'm going to take it down a notch because I get so jacked up. I don't know if it's because I drink too much of this or when I hear people panicking. So let's talk about the real estate end and not about the interest rate end, because there's no panic in mortgage rates. If there is a panic or a heightened excitement, let's put it that way, a heightened excitement, it should be, how are you going to find your clients a house? Forget about rates. I mean, rates are immaterial. You're talking about 4 or 5%. Okay. Where am I going to get a house to move into, Brian?
Right. So, when you talk about the rates, when the people get to this point, they're not worried about the rates anymore. Unfortunately, they're like, I need a house. We've been looking some clients 6 months. So what we do is we try and find, depending on what they're looking for, depending on what they're approved for, depending on what kind of cash, which is important that they can bring to the table. Do they have that extra money to put down an appraisal guarantee, which is a big thing? We have people paying over appraised value. Can they bring extra cash to the table to do that? We're, not my favorite, but a lot of people, they don't want inspections. The listing agents are like, don't bring an inspection or we're going to bail out. So we have to sometimes write an offer that has no inspection. And a lot of little tricks, and networking, I'm going to say, is a big one too. Talking to those agents. I'm going to call every agent I'm writing an offer on and talk to them and get to know them. What does your client want? What do you want? Who do you want to work for? Hey, I got Becky Alley working with me. She's going to make sure this loan gets closed, bringing my team along with the offer. It's a lot more than just the numbers because, like you said, there's not a lot out there. So we have to pull out every trick in the bag to try and make sure that our client's offer is the one that's being accepted.
Yeah, and you're pounding the pavement every day and you're scouring listings, you're farming your neighborhood, you're doing everything. And Becky, I know you are too, Beck. Listen, March is coming to an end. Okay, tomorrow is the last day of March. It's been a very, very interesting first quarter of 2022. Again, not a lack of activity, but as we said here, and I'm going to remind people of this date, January 19th, 2022, for the rest of my life. We said the rates were going to go up. Okay. We didn't foresee the first quarter of inventory levels being this low. What do we foresee for the second quarter of 2022, Becky?
Well, I mean, rent is no longer really a viable option for a lot of these buyers that are entering into the buyer pool, right? I mean, you're talking about rent that's went up. It's over 19% now, even just from like 30 days ago, it was 12%. Now we're up 19%. And that's just here. That's not even nationally, right? So you're not even talking about the, New Yorks and things like that, right? And multifamilies right now, a lot of people are gobbling up multifamily properties because not only are they trying to live in these homes, but they're also capitalize on this rent situation they have going on because there is a lack of housing, right? The common need for housing is being difficult to meet because you have 45 million between 25 and 35 that are entering into the market with nothing out there. Everyone's fighting over 4 homes, right? So it's going to continue to be competitive. And like Brian mentioned, the rates are the rates. The field has been leveled, right? It's not a matter of I'm going to call 7 other people and someone's going to magically give me 4.25 with no points. See ya, bye, right? This is the kind of market where experience is going to matter. We've all been here. There's a pattern, people, right? It's the same thing that happened, but opposite. It was a severe buyer's market 12 years ago. Well, now it's the same thing, but opposite, right? And this is where you separate the players from the pretenders. And that's what's going to get these buyers' offers accepted is that creativity on someone as like a high caliber agent like Brian putting out that offer, and then that creativity of the financing on the lending side, right? And then right before this podcast even took place, I literally was on the phone talking about an offer, what I can do to get it accepted, and whose name's on that pre-approval matters, right? Everyone's walking around with these pre-approval shanks, I like to call them, but it matters whose name's on that paper sometimes because you need to work with people that you trust, that you can get you to the finish line. Because the last part that I want to mention is these deals are falling apart. right? You're that first buyer. I just was on the phone with someone. A deal is falling apart because the buyer wasn't well qualified, and you're finding it out 45 days into the transaction. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, Becky, you bring up such a great point. And Lisa, Becky brings up a point. She brought up 2012. 2012 was really the start. It was the second year of a seller's market. Came from a buyer's market, turned in 2011 and 2012. We turned the corner. It was a seller's market. Here we are. This is the 12th year, unheard of, unprecedented, that home prices have moved up even faster in January and February, despite where interest rates are. Lisa, my opinion is I don't see this changing for the second quarter of 2022. What about you?
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, especially as we're going into the home buying season, this is when people typically start listing homes and they start, thinking about moving, trying to get their kids in the school district before school starts next year. That's all starting right now. That's going to happen in the next month or two. So no, I don't really see it changing. I feel like, even though we're going to have a little bit of movement and it might loosen up a tiny bit, so many people I think are, and I'm just going to say it, afraid of the uncertainty of everything that's going on with our economy, that they're going to stay put. They hear rates are going up and they don't understand that, yes, they are going up, but we're still at an incredibly low and competitive rate over the course of history. But all they hear is going up. So they don't want to move. They don't want to change. You know what I mean? They know their house is worth more, but they know they're going to have a little bit of a tough time finding the next house. So they stay put. So I think that's adding to this kind of like gridlock, for lack of a better word. So I don't foresee that changing in the next, honestly, probably 2 quarters. Maybe we'll get lucky when it gets cold again, but I think this kind of environment's going to be here for a little bit longer.
It's going to be an extended winter for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's going to go in. We'll talk about third quarter, fourth quarter when the time comes, but immediately the next 90 days, now 92 days, the second quarter brings in, it's an interesting carryover from first quarter. I'm going to bring Harvey Freed in here. And Harvey, somebody got slapped on Sunday night for making a comment about yours and Brian's hairdo. So I'm not going to bring it up. You guys, guys could be brothers.
By choice.
Hey, Brian, I don't want you coming through the podcast and slapping me. So don't do it.
I choose this.
Okay. Hey, Harvey, I don't know that Harvey's got some kind of condition, but Harvey, talk about what you're doing now in preparation for the second quarter, okay?
Yes, Harry, I have lots of conditions, by the way, and I appreciate one of the things, the second quarter, what I'm really feeling after 30 years of doing mortgages and being so passionate about it. I live and breathe this stuff here. You guys all know it. My cell phone's available for anyone to call. And last night, talking to a second-time buyer who just bought in the last 3 years. And I was amazed again. Not really. The same things are happening. The kids, the buyers that bought in the last 4 or 5 years have no idea what they signed. Brian, you're a teacher. We teach. I'm in the teaching business here. I'm all about financial literacy. I was quite shocked when I learned the mortgage business when I was 23 years old. I'm 55. So it's the one thing that we bring to the table. Becky put it out there recently on one of her Facebook posts is there's no replacement for experience. Now, I'm not saying that somebody who's new, they might have closed 100 transactions last year. Well, that's a lot of experience. I think the experience lies in the amount of volume and things that you've seen. So when an alternative thing comes up, something wrong with the house or the septic or something about the property, real estate agents like Brian are able to pivot very quickly. And that's the key. It's this education, Brian and Harry and Lisa and Becky. This is everyday passion. That's what I want to focus on in the second quarter is really taking these buyers. The conversation last night here, we talked about it. I have just done the math, Harry, and I'm still finishing up. As you can see, I'm still working on it. If the gentleman would do what he was told to do by an unqualified lender, it'd probably cost him $25,000 in equity 3 years from now. What I'm going to suggest is give them some choices here. So I think it's just educating the buyers so that they're prepared. Brian, nobody wants to overpay for a house.
No, and I like the education aspect. Actually, what I've started doing, my mentor, Amy Rolfe, who I work with here at EXP, she's amazing. And she taught me this, and I go with it is every buyer I have, I meet with them either in person or Zoom before we go to look at a house. And I say, okay, this is what it looks like. This is what you have to expect. This is what you're approved for. This is actually the price of the house that you're going to look for if this is what you're approved for. And here are your payments along the way if you're at this level, this level, this level, to try and really get them to understand what we're going for. Because when it comes time to write that offer, I don't want to waste my time, the listing agent's time, and the buyer's time thinking they have this hope that they're going to get this house when I know they're not qualified for it and they're not going to be able to compete.
Hey, Brian, you're an educator, okay? In all your years of being a teacher and a guidance counselor, you know it's probably very easy to counsel and assist people that are willing to listen, right? But talk about the students and now the clients that are more difficult, like me and Harvey, that were sitting in your office and we wouldn't listen to you. We've all had clients now that won't listen. So go ahead and share the patience, the understanding, and most importantly, the educational process that you have to go through when you're counseling somebody that's looking for a house in these trying times.
You know what, the biggest point, the biggest thing I would say about that is I need to make sure that I can get them to where they're the ones making the choice. I don't want to be the one that's saying, oh, this house is great, this is a good decision for you. I need them, and I need to work with them along the way and give them the information along the way so that they're making an informed decision on their own. Because the last thing I want as a real estate agent is to come in and say, oh, you should buy this house, you should buy this house, and then they hate the house. Because then they're going to say, Brian made us buy this house. It's his fault we bought this house. And now they're not going to, when they go to sell again, they're not going to come to me. They're not going to come to my lending partners. They're going to come to anybody. And I just cost this business. I need that person to be happy at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, that's what's important is you bought this house. You're happy with the house. I helped you find this place that made you happy. That's
There you go.
the education.
We're joined by Brian McAllister, eXp Realty in Trenton today, along on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Podcast, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding, powered by Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, Equal Housing Lender. 2289 is our NMLS number, along with Becky Alley, Lisa Lawson, and Harvey Freed. Becky, Brian makes a lot of sense because we try to counsel and advise our clients too. And that's why our podcast and our Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show is called Hardcore, because we give you the hardcore answers to the hardcore questions. Sometimes, Becky, people don't want to hear it, but we got to continue delivering the word, right?
I mean, honestly, Brian could not have answered that question more eloquently and truthful and honestly, because that really is what it's about in this business, right? And that's what separates him from another agent, right? Because a lot of our clients, you can make enough phone calls. I talk about this all the time. You can call 15 people and one of those 15 people eventually will tell you what you want to hear, right? But it's not what you need to hear. And that's the difference between a professional and a pretender, right? Because they're afraid of the word no, this is your decision. We're going to present the best options for you and we're going to put them in front of you, but ultimately it is your choice. This is your investment. This is your livelihood. This is what you are going to be paying for. We're the majority investor. That is correct. But with these rates going up as much as they have been, I'm literally getting text messages from agents right now that they're under contract and their loan officers did not tell them what their payments were going to be. They had no idea because the rates have went up so exponentially so quick. And those are rookie mistakes. Those are I'm busy mistakes, right? You're no longer being productive, right? You are dropping the ball in those situations. So I'm once again going to handle the situation and I'm going to make sure they're in a good spot. But if you've been pre-approved, and this is for anyone that's out there buying, if you've been pre-approved and you have not seen updated numbers in the last 2 weeks, that's a problem. And you need to be contacted by your loan officer, or you can reach us anytime here at Capital Mortgage Funding, because the payments have went up quite a bit just from Friday to Friday. What was there last Friday is no longer here today even, so these are things where your payments are going up $100. So when you're trying to spread your dollar as thin as you can to compete with these houses, you need to know what your payments are. And I just did one for even Brian, we did 3 different situations. Why? Because it's important that they understand what they're getting into. If we have to drop the price so they can go up on a appraisal guarantee, they know what that payment's going to look like across the board. And I even spent an hour with them on the phone. That's okay. That's what we're here for, because ultimately when they do pull that trigger, they're going to be confident and they're going to sleep very well knowing that they got their offer accepted between the 2 of us.
Well said, Becky. Unfortunately, we only do this for a half hour. We can go on for 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe 10 hours. Lisa, I'm going to let you begin the wrap up. We're going to go to Lisa to wrap it up, Harvey, then back to Becky. Brian, you're going to have the last word, then we're going to sign up, because we could sit here and talk about this all day long, because this market is very, very interesting right now. I use that word, Lisa, because we haven't seen anything like this in a very, very long time.
Yeah, we definitely haven't. But, kind of just to piggyback on what Becky said, education is the most important thing. We don't want anybody buying a home and at the end of the transaction goes, I don't even know what happened, or I don't understand, or I thought it was going to be this way and it wasn't. We'll spend all the time in the world. That is what we're here for. People say all the time, I know you're busy. I know you're busy. It doesn't matter. I always have that philosophy. You give it to a busy person to get something done. That's what we're going to do. We will spend hours if we have to. We'll explain things many different ways if that's required. We want you to be comfortable and understand what you're getting into, because the other issue going on right now is you might start looking for a home and it could take you 3 or 4 months, and where rates are right now aren't going to be where they're in 3 or 4 months. And that's going to affect your payment as well. And we want to make sure you understand that whole process. So please give us a call. We're happy to help. And if you decide this isn't the time for you, that's okay too, but at least you'll have an educated decision.
Wonderful. Mr. Harvey Freed.
I'm going to piggyback what my lady friends have said here. Paperwork, if you haven't submitted paperwork recently to your lender, if you haven't reviewed your numbers, if you don't know what debt to income ratio means or what it means to you, that's another huge problem. You better find out quickly. Be an expert in your home purchase, just as you would if you were purchasing that television. I've seen more passion at the Costco market where people are making television decisions than literally on home decisions and lending decisions. So wise up a little bit. We're here to help you, as everyone has said, and get that paperwork into your lender.
Yeah, that's excellent advice, Harvey Freed. Go ahead, Becky Alley.
There's a reason why we're the #1 podcast and mortgage radio show in our area. And that's because we have truth, we have expertise, we have the knowledge behind us, right? We're not sitting here. We should be so fortunate that everyone in all the lands works with us, right? That's not what this is about. We are here to advocate. We can only, I want to help everyone I humanly possibly can, but if someone's working with a competitor, that's fine. And I hope they're having a great experience, right? But all that starts with a conversation. And so if you are concerned or you don't know what's going on, it's okay to have a second conversation with someone. That doesn't mean that you're going to abandon ship. That doesn't mean I'm going to pull you that way. I'm going to advise you, just like Harvey, Harry, Brian, Lisa, everyone's going to give you a different way of looking at things, right? So sometimes it's that conversation. So if you're thinking about buying, let's have a conversation, because it's about that experience more so than ever. It's not about here, these are the numbers, deal with it. There's other ways to skin a cat, if you will, right? So there's other ways you can look at it, and you're going to have to be with a true professional team if you're trying to stand out in a multiple offer situation. So give us a call your current lender. I don't care who you call, but make sure you are understanding what you're getting into, what your payments are looking like. And that's something that you're going to be comfortable with when you do get this offer accepted, because nothing will be more disheartening than you finally throw that rock, it lands where you want it to land, and you're like, oh crap, I can't afford this payment because I had no idea that my 3.875 I was quoted in January no longer exists. That's very unfortunate when that happens. So reach out to us. We're here to help you. And if not, we can advise you.
Thanks, Becky. Brian McAllister, eXp Realty in Trenton. Today is your day, Wednesday, March 30th, 2022, on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Podcast. Your final words for the morning.
What I really want to say is to potential buyers out there, current buyers, anybody, your team is probably the most important thing that you have going for you. You want to make sure that everything's rock solid. Communication is open. When I hear you know, my clients will say all the time, oh, I know you're busy, but no, I'm not busy because you are what I'm doing. And our team down here, the Sayward team here at EXP, you know, working with Becky and you guys over there, it's just it's the most important thing that a client can have is a good team. So that's really, if I'm going to give any advice to a client right now, that's what you need.
That's excellent advice, Brian. I'm going to tell you what, I wish I had you as a guidance counselor back in the day. You know what I mean? You would have made my life a lot easier, my friend, because I spent a lot of days after school in the principal, the vice principal, and my guidance counselor's office. And that's a true testament to, by the way, I still have relationships with a lot of my old counselors. And anyway, later in life, they became clients of mine. So we must have done something right, or they actually did something right, turning me around. But everybody, I want to thank Brian McAllister, Becky Alley, Lisa Lawson, and Harvey Freed. Also, I want to thank Roberta Beauchesne, our producer director. He is the producer director of the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate and Business Show, heard every Saturday morning, 9 to 10, 97.1 FM, and the podcast, heard every Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. I am Harry Glanz, and I want to thank you very much. And listen, just grateful to be with all of you and very humbled that you came on the podcast today, Brian, and we appreciate you, my man. Everybody have a great day. Thanks a lot.